Hi, this is Justin and this is my final dev diary for the 345 Final Project. I was in a group with Paul Hamela and Jordan Hunnicutt. So the design of our game Kinesus came from a mechanic made by Paul for a previous project in which you'd use a grappling hook to pull yourself around. We also wanted to improve on a mechanic that was in another one of our prototypes, which involved picking objects up and putting them back down again. So in the ideation phase of our game, we had to find some way to mix these two mechanics together in a way that would be cohesive, especially as telekinesis is a power that's built for slow puzzle games and the grappling hook is more for an action-oriented game. So I had to find a way to mix these two powers in a level. I first looked at the Zelda series and how their dungeons were built, which are a similar mix of puzzles and action, and that kind of informed the direction of the dungeon. I also looked specifically at the Dark Souls level Sen's Fortress, which also uses a boulder as an obstacle, which is recontextualized into filling a gap. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the level that I built for this project on this near final build of our vertical slice. I built this level with Infinity Blade assets which are free on the Unreal Store, and this video is going to be made up of still images as my computer can't handle running Unreal and recording at the same time. I wanted to demonstrate and show how your abilities in the game can be used in some novel gameplay concepts while also playing to the limitations of the character. For example, you can't hold an object with telekinesis while also using the grappling hook ability, which prevents a lot of puzzles from being solved in a certain way. I also based the puzzles and the design around the idea of recontextualization, or the flipping of power between you and the game. So the dungeon you're given to play with is populated with a lot of different traps and hazards, and these just kind of terrorize you throughout the level, but you can break these traps with the use of your powers. So the early example of this is a ramp that bombs roll down of and can damage you. You then pick this ramp up yourself and use this to access a button. Another example of this is the boulder spawning machine that terrorizes you throughout the second floor. And then once you get to the third floor, you can actually pick up these boulders and use them as an object to cross a gap. Finally, you can also pick up the bomb spawners to use their bombs to break through walls and get secrets. The main puzzle of the dungeon revolves around sticking together 3 objects to cross a gap. The first object is right next to the hole you're supposed to put it in, but if you try to drop it in, it'll break because it's made of wood. You can only fill this gap after you've dropped the boulder from the 3rd floor all the way down to the very bottom floor. I also purposefully made these puzzles as interlocking as possible and to cross as many floors as possible, to make them not feel like individual small puzzles, which the Zelda series can be really guilty of. This can be seen in how you can only pick up the boulder once you progress to the 3rd floor after fighting the boulder all the way through the 2nd floor and pressing a button that unlocks access to the 3rd floor. Another example of this is how you have to reuse a ramp that you used at the very start of the game to access another crate. I also thought a lot about visuals and composition and how this can lead the player, though not to the same degree as the puzzle design. Many of the secrets are clearly visible from early stages of the game, and I wanted that to plant the seed in the player's mind as to how they get to them. This also involved trying to open up the dungeon as much as possible, which is why there are a lot of outdoor areas where you can see the rest of the dungeon and where you came from. So yeah, that was the design side of what I did for the final project. And another video in which I talk about programming and how I prevented the player from breaking the sequence of the puzzles or dropping off the edge of the world.